Live and in color from the NBC News radio broadcasting studios of KCAA, 1050 AM, 102.3 FM, and 106.5 FM, located in beautiful Southern California, and in parallel from the Turf's Up radio studio in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thanks for tuning in to the Water Zone show this evening.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in this wonderful world. Hope everybody's having a great time. I'm ecstatic today, as I am in every show, because I have two wow women on the show. And one is Miss Tara Malali, who is our co-host, and Miss Chris Austin from Maven's Notebook. And I got to admit, they're awesome. and I appreciate them. So, hi, girls, ladies, how are you doing today?
I don't know, I'm blushing, I feel like.
And Chris, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing okay. Can't complain. I'm up in Reno today.
Is it nice?
So, yes, it's nice and blue sky. I got to drive over at the tail end of a storm that dropped some snow in the mountains, which is going to be nice to kind of dampen the wildfire risk for a while, but not really doing much for water supply. Most of that snowpack's gone already, and the little bit that fell will soon be melted away. So off we go into what's going to be definitely a hot, dry summer.
Miss Malali, how are you doing out there in the near the ocean in Oxnard and all that nice places?
So our groundwater reservoirs are full. We're living a super chill life. We feel very blessed to be managing the water resources we have with clear success. So I feel like I'm kind of living in a dream right now, even though I know most of the state is not. So it's a little bit of a mixed feeling, you know.
That's California dreaming for you.
100%.
Yes. And
having a Ventura Highway moment. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. Well, it's 88 today and clear sunny skies out here outside Phoenix, and it's wonderful. And we got a lot of interesting news, so I'm going to let Miss Chris Austin start up and give us her number one thing that she wrote about, which is really important.
Well, it's kind of this interesting story, but after the success of removing the dams on the Klamath River, a similar effort has been going on to remove dams on the Eel River in Northern California, and they got it's called the Potter Valley Project. It's owned by PG&E. And it's on the Eel River, and it takes water and it diverts water over to the Sonoma County Russian River Basin, because they got a lot of wineries over there, so they get water from the Potter Valley Project. It flows through a hydroelectric plant that's very old and is not very efficient, and so PG&E had agreed to shut down the plant, and the people that got the imported water, Sonoma Water, and I think some other folks are involved too, came up with a plan to somehow kind of replace some of that water. I think that a lot of folks in Sonoma are a little nervous about that, because this water source is being taken away. Also, they want to remove the dam, and the people below the dam on the river have one set of issues with it, but also that dam created a lake, Lake Pillsbury, which is a lake that people use for recreation, and it's a big part of that economy in that area, that recreation economy. So, there are some people that are impacted, but the dam removal had been going forward, and then I believe it was the Lake County supervisors wrote to the Trump administration and asked for help to somehow not have these dams taken out. And at first, the reply from the feds was, "No, we're not going to take this one on." But they were, I believe, they appealed to the Bureau of Reclamation, and the Bureau of Reclamation said, "No, we're not going to do that." So then they appealed to the Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, and she reported on social media, because apparently social media is where the federal government breaks their news these days. So on social media, she said that they have a possible buyer that's interested in buying the Potter Valley project. And it's a rather interesting thing because it is the buyers are in Southern California. It's Elsinore Water District, which is way down, and I don't know what it's like. South, I would say southeast Southern California.
It's south of Riverside.
Yeah.
I guess they needed for their lake that they got to refill.
or whatever. They say, well, we're always, we're looking for new sources of water, but it's quite a puzzler as to how they could make such a deal work. We do have instances where, like, for instance, the Coachella Valley has an entitlement to state water project water, but no aqueduct flows to them that can take them state water project water. So they have a deal with Metropolitan that Metropolitan takes their state water project water that Metropolitan can receive, and in return, Metropolitan gives them Colorado River water. Oh yeah, water train. Yeah. Oh well, I don't know. Maybe they'll. Yeah, Rob is doing his water train choo-choo stick here on the video here. You all can't see it, but yeah. So, but there's no imported water going into this area where this dam is located. There's no. I don't see any possible trade partners that could trade with the Southern California Water District, but let's see what Tara has to say, our water agency person. How do you see this water coming? Get out your choo-choo train there, Rob. Here he goes.
No, I always joke about the water train thing. I have to follow up on it because I haven't talked to the guy in years. But no, it's you have a good sense of what you said. I mean, there's no way, and I'll shut up after this. I don't know how they're going to get the water to Elsinore.
You guys know it's going to be paper water. Like, yeah. That water's not going to go to Elsinore directly. Like, nobody's doing that.
No,
it's going to be
the molecules.
Yeah, no.
It has to be a trade.
Right.
It has to be trade.
So it looks like Elsinore is trying to just kind of grab whatever the water they can, and with their, they're heavily reliant on the State Water Project and have had their allocations cut multiple different times when, like, we get, when we have those drought years. They weren't ever as bad as, like, Las Virgenes, for example, but definitely are always looking to back that up and continue to back it up, as any Southern California water agency is doing. It's sort of what I think might be happening, and I haven't spoken with Greg on this particular topic yet because it's so new and unfolding. Is my suspicion is that they don't really have a ton of rights to sites, and so this may be their version of what sites is.
Yeah, but there still has to be some sort of connection. I mean, somebody's going to take the water from the Potter Valley Water Project, and how is that going to turn into a transfer of water from some other place? I mean, like, with Metropolitan and Coachella Valley, it's very straightforward. Metropolitan takes the State Water Project water for Coachella and gives them that like amount with Colorado River. The conveyance is all there. They just do it. But there's no conveyance, into the Russian River Valley. They do not get any imported water.
Could Sonoma County Water Agency with grants over there, could he secure the Potter Valley water and then give part of his allocation of the State Water Project to Elsinore Valley?
Sonoma Valley doesn't have State Water Project water. They get no imported water. See, that's the rub. If they did, then I could see how that could work.
Yeah.
But Russian River, they're just got what Mother Nature gives them in groundwater, and that's it. So, I don't know. I wonder if this is just just for fun. I guess to say, now more people know who Elsinore Valley Water District is.
Yeah, I mean that's for sure true.
They get national attention now. But we'll see. Jared Huffman is saying that it could be catastrophic because he thinks it's reviving threats of a Southern California water grab. Again, I don't know how they're going to grab that water. So, what does that mean? Who knows?
No, I think we ladies were talking about it. It's what it has to be and what could it be if it's a paper deal or not. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to find out how they're going to play this because it's illogical how it's going to get there.
Yeah, I mean there has to be either a connection through infrastructure or a party that a trade could occur. A trade, not actual water molecules, but you here and there, some way to do that. And I don't see it. So, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see as this moves forward, if it moves forward, what happens there. But yeah, the fears of a Southern California water grab, that's pretty prevalent throughout Northern California. So,
if I change subject here, if we put out a questionnaire a quiz on California, and people may not know this, that California has two of the most endangered rivers in the United States. You think many people would know who that would be?
Well, I mean that list changes every year, and the San Joaquin River has been on there before. The New River's been on there. They just tend to use different metrics every year or choose different rivers for different reasons. I don't think they're any more endangered than they used to be honest.
To me, that's like measuring.
There's nothing new about, they've been trying to do this, mining on the Fresno River for many years. It's not like they just started doing this, They've been trying to get that approved, so.
I compare this to measuring the snowpack every year.
So I just looked up Sonoma County Water Agency, and they are one of the 29 long-term state water projects water supply contractors.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. I had not understood that. I stand corrected then.
Yeah. It's
that but they always talk about not having imported water.
But they may not have it. They may have the rights to it.
Huh.
I just wonder how that works. I don't know. I mean,
Sounds plausible.
I looked it up. Anyways, it says it's under the Department of Water Resources. It's one of the water supply contractors. So they have Table A allocation.
Do you see what it is? I'm looking on the DWR website, State Water Project contractors, and it doesn't say Sonoma Water.
Let me
It
look.
says Solano County. I know it goes to Solano, but I don't see Sonoma County.
Contractor list. Yeah, I'm not seeing it here. I'm seeing like a reference to it. All right, I got to figure this out. I'll come back next week. Next week I will have more information on this. I got to figure this out. I'm super curious.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking up things here myself, trying to see. It would be interesting. That's not it. Well, we should probably get on to something else because this is not the most interesting.
We can't be doing the research while we're on the show.
You're doing research. Well, that's good. That's why we got two fantastic wild women who know where to go and look it up and get all the information. And someday we'll get the answer. What's happening with the snowpack? We shouldn't be fooled about that one.
Oh no! Like I was saying, we got some snow. It's not going to do much, but maybe damp down the wildfire risk. But hey, I got a piece of breaking news that might actually be tomorrow's news if anybody writes about it besides me.
Start typing.
The Delta Conveyance Project, our favorite controversial project to argue over, Delta tunnels, that's going to route the water from Northern California around the Delta and take it to Southern California. And it's been progressing through. It gets fought at by project opponents at every step, but it is managing to work through the permit process. And it had, one of the things that the Delta Tunnel had to do is it had to say had to prove that it is consistent with this thing called the Delta Plan. Now, the Delta Plan came out of 2009 Delta Reform Act, which was like Governor Schwarzenegger's way back. And it sort of paves the way. They created this council. They said, you got to create this Delta Plan. And essentially, this plan is if you're going to do a project in the Delta, then these are the things that you have to adhere to. And, the intention here was that the Delta Tunnel project would be one of these projects that would come before this council that would have to, and the project would have to prove it to be consistent with this Delta Plan. So the last time this Delta Tunnel project in its previous iteration, the California Water Fix, it got up to this consistency determination with the Delta Plan, and it went before the council, and it got appealed, and the council upheld the appeal and remanded the consistency determination back to Department of Water Resources to do more work. And then what happened is Newsom got elected and they killed that project and it went into this now single tunnel iteration. This project that has been underway since like 2007, I believe, it's forever. So anyway, this time they went before the council with their Delta consistency determination, and the council has rejected the appeal for the most part, except for two things. One of them is they need to do some work on the golden mussels, and the second thing I can't think of right now, but I'm going to tell you these are not huge things. So the council they issued a draft decision, and they had their meeting today, and the council did vote just to remand just those two small things, but otherwise denied the appeal. So hopefully someone's going to write about that, but it's a pretty convoluted and esoteric thing, but we'll hope that somebody takes it on. Otherwise, I'll have to do it. So.
Well, I'll keep my laptop on and my tablet so I can read it first thing in the morning.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's like I don't know. I kind of believe it's similar on the state, but I was, covered a presentation where the federal agencies were talking about their permitting processes, and I think it was someone from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was talking, and she said, it's not our part, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, it's not our part to approve or deny a project. We're not supposed to, make that kind of decision. Our role is we're supposed to help that agency do that project with minimal impact. It's not our job to stop the project. And sometimes I think that's kind of the way it is with the state, too. These agencies, I think the public thinks that these agencies are going to weigh in and say that we don't like that project, you can't do it. But it's they don't really have that kind of discretion to make those kinds of choices. So, it can only be, if it's inconsistent with the law in some way.
Well, that's the roundup for this week, and that's a lot of heavy news we got to deal with, and a lot of research we got to go follow now. So
I know, right?
So I appreciate that from everybody. But Chris, as I tell my audience every week that you hear me, people out there, go to mavensnotebook.com, become a subscriber. You get all this secret stuff that's going on in the water business, even before it hits the regular news thing. She scoops it up, and she knows it better than anybody I know. And if you'd like to become a sponsor of that, you can send a few dollars over and keep that going. She's been doing it for how many years, Chris?
19 years.
Yeah, it's going great. And she's also a great speaker, as you hear every day on the radio. And I've been with her on many events, a couple of them. But and she cracks up the audience, and they have a good time. But she gets the news across and gives them information that they didn't even know. So, anyway, we thank you, Chris, for doing this with us. And you're going to have a good week. And we'll talk to you next week. And I know you're in Reno, and you going back home?
Oh, yeah, Saturday.
So, okay. Drive careful or fly however you got there. And we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. All right, we're going to take a little break, and then we got our featured guest coming on, and it's going to be an interesting conversation. It's somebody that I've known for almost 20 years, and did a bunch of things with him, and we'll tune you into what that is in a moment. But first, going to have a word from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
Take control of your business anywhere, anytime with the SiteOne mobile app. Designed for contractors on the go, the app keeps you connected to your account wherever the job takes you. When you're signed in, you get full visibility into your personal account without needing a computer. Check your contractor-specific pricing. See real-time inventory, create custom lists, and reorder from your product history or saved lists in just a few taps. Scanning QR codes makes managing products even easier. You can quickly add items to a list, view product details, or add them to your cart in an instant. Need to approve a quote or pay a bill? You can do it right from your phone. Track your orders, view invoices, even redeem your partner's program points for rewards that give back to your business. Plan smarter with built-in project calculators that save time and help you quote with confidence. Logging in is quick and secure. Use Face ID or Touch ID for instant access. Customize your experience by choosing your preferred language in English or Spanish. Looking to level up your knowledge? Browse, learn, and explore videos and articles, or find local events to stay connected with your SiteOne community. The SiteOne mobile app puts the power of your business in your pocket.
Water is one of the biggest expenses for communities, HOAs, universities, golf courses, and resorts. So keeping those costs under control, especially when rates are increasing while water supplies are being reduced, are often essential to a customer's survival. Managing water requires multiple skills, which is why it's been complicated and difficult until now. AquaTrack brings multiple skills and technologies together to help large system users conserve outdoor water and improve the health of their landscapes. AquaTrack's professionals are certified landscape water managers and certified landscape irrigation auditors. The company offers audit services, upgrade advice, technical expertise, and water use monitoring. We already manage irrigation water for the largest homeowner associations in Arizona, and we're prepared to bring our knowledge and experience to help others, including landscapers and designers. Give us a call and hear how AquaTrack saved one HOA some 430 million gallons of water and $200,000 in annual water expenses. AquaTrack is Arizona-based, and you can reach us at 623-594-8689. That's 623-594-8689.
KCAA.
All right, welcome back to the second half of the Water Zone. Thanks for tuning in and staying on. We got some great guests coming up, and I'm going to introduce him. I've known him for almost 20 years and worked with him on different projects and was part of a building industry association, and he was part of that. And he's an astute gentleman who's the publisher, president, and CEO of a company that's called Peninsula Publishing, and handles a bunch of different magazines, but he's involved in a couple projects that we've been involved with over the years, and I thought I'd bring him on and get an update of what's happening, and it's pretty good. I'd like to introduce Mr. Nick Slevin. Nick, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Rob. It's very nice to be back on the show, and thank you very much for having me on.
You're very welcome. I know when you and I talked recently, you got some new projects, and some are retrofit from, or not retrofit, but going on from the project long time ago, which was, I'll let you talk about the ABC Green Homes project, and your new one that's happening out in Terra Verde. I guess that's the name it's going to be. But you also want to bring some insight that we want to pick your brain after about the home building industry, because you're involved with that very heavily in publishing with them, lots of new things. And so why don't you start to tell us what you've been doing and bring us up to speed?
No problem. Well, my name is Nick Slevin, and I am the publisher at Builder Media, which is the business that belongs to Peninsula Publishing as the holding company. Builder Media is our on-air, as we're known around the industry. We reach over 300,000 home building professionals every month through various magazine platforms, Builder and Developer, Green Home Builder, and then another 144,000 via our American infrastructure platforms. So we've been publishing now since 1990, and we publish magazines and newsletters and websites. And we also developed the ABC Green Home Project, which we launched in 2010. And we started building very green demonstration homes using our advertisers' building materials. I guess I must have been a disappointed home builder in a previous life. Based on the feedback and the success of the first one, we continue to push forward, and we've developed 4 to date, and we just recently launched start the ball rolling on the 5th one, and we shall be virtual this year and built on site in Temecula, California next year. The goal being to beat the Title 24 building code, which is California's challenging building code, residential building code and standard. Normally we do that by about 40%. Not sure if we'll still be able to pull off quite that big a margin, but we're going to try.
And you get a lot of press from the media, from TV and all, and it's been a success over the years. And it's great. It's great for the people who help contribute to that project, and they show their products off. And a lot of people learn a lot of stuff from that. So tell us a little bit how ABC Green Building started with the house and where it is now, and some more information on that.
Well, we were, it began with a good buddy of mine, a guy called John Morton. He was working for Southern California Edison, and they were doing a lot of advertising and marketing of the state's various energy programs to the building industry using our platforms. And he and I were good buddies. I'm a former soldier. He's a former Marine. We're hanging out in a dive bar in Newport Beach, and I was complaining to him during the back of a very boring football game, Super Bowl game, and I was talking to him about how all the projects that came across our desk for consideration of inclusion in Green Home Builder magazine, one of our titles, were invariably, mansions with a couple of solar panels on the roof, and they didn't really do much to take any of the real issues in terms of green boxes or high-performance home building. So he laughed, and he said, why don't you build one yourself or design one yourself, have one of your architect buddies design a house? And I thought, gosh, that's not a bad idea. So on the back of that tidbit, I went back to my office and got our team around the table, and we came up with the American Buildable Certified Green Home Project. And it was designed to demonstrate best practice in high-performance home building, design, architecture, construction, materials, and technology to a growing audience of home building professionals. And this was back in 2010. So we started. I went out to a firm called KGY Group, a very well-known architectural firm, a guy called Manny Gonzalez, and he agreed to design a virtual house. And we got started inviting our advertisers if they'd like to be part of the rendered into the virtual house, which we were going to share in the magazines and on the website and the newsletters and so on. And I kept my buddy John appraised of our progress. And about 2 months into this, he called me up one afternoon and he said, hey, I wanted, if you wouldn't mind, if the Southern California Edison Company actually built this house. And I was very pleased and surprised and, of course, delighted. And so that's what we did. They leased some land at the Great Park in Irvine, and we went ahead and we built ABC Green Home, which is now referred to as ABC Green Home 1.0. And we had 30,000 people come through it, members of the public, over the next 2 years. And then it was dismantled and it was rebuilt on a site in Santa Ana that was provided by Habitat Orange County. And we built that house back into 2 houses, which were then provided to disabled veteran families. And we went on to do 2.0. And so that's how it got started, with a big endorsement from a huge utility, which really helped the project come to life. And they've been part of it ever since. I'm very pleased to say. So that's the genesis of the ABC Green Home Project. And an unlikely but welcome start it was, I must say. And we were very pleased with the industry reception and the public's reception. We got quite a lot of recognition, won a bunch of prizes, got a couple of plaques on the wall from the U.S. Congress, and you know how it goes. And I think one of the things that we did that was useful was we leaned into having the project certified independently by various agencies that do that, whether it's in the EPA's Indoor Air Plus or National Green Building or Energy Star or indeed WaterSense. The first house was LEED Platinum, which is the very high bar for energy efficiency and certifications. And we had, I think, 6 or 7 advanced energy certifications on the building, which was really verified proof of performance, which is great from our partners and for the participants and the design team. So proof of concept, if you like,
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's how the ball got rolling, and we just kept going and changing it and improving it and tweaking and refining and massaging it and growing the platform and trying different architecture and that's sort of basically how it has evolved to where we're about to start our 5th one, 15 years later.
So the question I was going to ask you was to pick your favorite child, basically, which is to say, what is the technology that you feel like benefited the most from this sort of high impact visibility, and what do you feel like brought to the world, kind of in terms of awareness?
Well, I think fundamentally, the home building industry has always looked at with suspicion at what's generally referred to as green home building, and I've always felt that that shouldn't be the case, because the home buying public is very interested in the things that make a house perform better. health and wellness. The COVID really played into that. Folks who had better indoor air quality benefited, and homes that are independently certified and that were built with a bit more care and a bit more consideration to the materials quality and the way homes are constructed and the design of the houses and the slightly more performance thinking going into them at the design level and executed through construction, those homeowners are better off. And of course, I think that was borne out when the appraisal community largely started to ascribe a higher value in resale to independently certified homes down the road when they were up for sale. So a house built in the same school district by similar home builders, one is certified and one is not. The certified house tends to have a higher value because of the effort that went into it initially. And I always thought that was sort of the tipping point where the industry that I work in, the home building industry, would really get on board. And it largely has. And I think it was just, bottom line thinking, and it's been really helped a lot by the colossal interest in this from the public and from the people that, they want to know what you're bringing to the table. They're going to make a huge investment in a piece of property and buy a house from a builder. They're really interested in knowing, how does that house work and how am I going to be able to live in it? Does it do the things I want it to do? Is it going to keep my family safe in a fire? Is it energy conscious? Does it sip water? Does it sip electricity? Will it protect us in a wildfire? These are all really important, fundamental, questions. And the industry has really stepped up, particularly here in Southern California, where we've been obliged to lean into this very heavily, as evidenced by the misery and the unfortunate circumstances surrounding the fires that we're still recovering from. So I think the things that have benefited, there's not really any one thing that has benefited. I think just raising, in general, the profile of high-performance home building for its own sake, because it's been of interest to so many people, collectively, individually, and otherwise, has really helped, I think, reinforce within the industry that it's a thing. It's not a fad. It's really a thing. And we've been publishing Green Home Builder magazine for the last 21 years to prove it.
Well, Nick, one of the things that I believe, and this is just for me, but I'm sure other people think the same way. The most expensive things that most people own are houses. And operating, I'll call it the word operating or living in a home costs money. Aside from insurance and all the other things you got to do, electric utilities, and people want a house, as you said, that have all the things of comfort and protection and all that. But they also want a house that's money efficient as well. They don't want a big, gigantic. That's how solar got into the business. Hey, we're going to cut your rates down to nothing. You generate your own best. Same with the water. You use smart controllers for irrigation. It'll control how much water that you put down and only what you need, not just what you throw down every single day. Those, I think, are big important factors that help the industry, the building industry, move a little bit more forward. I was on the National Association of Home Builders Water Technology Group, and we went through lots of stuff. And one of my things that I talked to with people from ResNet or Leeds, I would really love to see one standard that incorporates all the things that should be incorporated instead of having all these different organizations, because it's hard to get people to understand what's the differences of, you get a house that's LEED approved, you get one that's HERS approved, you get one that's EPA approved, and they have different point systems and things of that sort. And it makes it a little confusing in the building industry of which one are you going to follow. Maybe it's right. Maybe the builders do certain ones for back east versus what they do out here in California or in Arizona. But how do you see the industry looking at all that? Because I was on the board, as you know, with the BIA for many years. But right. How do you see that moving forward? What do you see the industry doing?
Well, in terms of certifications, we lean in very heavily to that. I've always said, look, if you're going to take the time to build a better house, spend a little bit of extra money and have it certified. That means that an independent organization, whether it's ResNet, EPA, GEMS, Home Innovation, NGBS, or Green Point rated, Wells Within Your Walls, whomever, has stood behind your project, your process. They've looked at your design, your architecture. They've seen how you built the house. It's been tested. It's been verified. And so your claims are now being supported by an independent third-party agency that has stood up behind your project. And that last little bit is the critical component. It's what separates some builders from other builders. And that little bit, that last thing, it's very important. And more builders are realizing that and are doing it. From the ABC Greenhouse point of view, we decided to make this a really important pillar. So we started showing off pretty early. Now, bearing in mind, I'm not a home builder, although we've been supporting the home building industry and publishing Builder and Developer and Green Home Builder magazine since 1990. We decided we were just going to deploy every available certification and share how that went very transparently across our platforms with the industry and with the audience and with our subscribers and readers. And so the first one had about 6 certifications, and the second one had about 7. And the fourth one, which we built at altitude because we're really showing off. Apparently, it's very easy to build a net zero LEED platinum house at sea level. It's a bit more complicated when the house is at 6,000 feet, and it might be 30 degrees in the morning and 80 degrees at noon, and it has to readjust itself to accommodate change in climate. But that house had 10 advanced energy certifications. So for the next one, we're going to do 12 because we can, and anybody can. That's excessive. But then we're in the business of talking about this and making it's a demonstration home project. So our team is bringing on, a special folks who can help us, work our way through the very involved processes that each one of these certifications requires, and it keeps us on our toes. But again, ultimately, it's verified proof of performance. And why we're doing that is so that any design team building any type of project, whether it's a small family, father and son, or mother and daughter home building team, for that matter, building custom homes, or it's a big box production builder building thousands of homes, can also employ the same approach and just decide, look, we're going to go with even the low bar Energy Star, which is still here, thankfully. Just that would be a good start. And then you can add layers to it if you wish. We're in the business of demonstrating high-performance best practice, so we decided to do all the most important ones. And, embracing new ones at every certifications, every chance we get, because we're trying to get people to, adopt these as standard in their home building businesses and in their practices. And we want the design community, particularly the architects and the engineers, to hopefully encourage their builder customers to lean into this a bit more, and to the benefit of the home buyer and the public. Because you get better houses. And it doesn't really matter if they're here in Southern California where we are, or for, listeners in Florida or at DC, Virginia, or, anywhere at all. Vancouver, Washington, it doesn't really matter. There's places where you have resilience issues and fire problems like Colorado and like here. This becomes much more critical, and safety becomes a priority. And in fairness, the state here has a very tough building code. They do say Title 24 might be certainly the hardest residential building code in America, arguably in the world. And some builders won't even build here because of it. It's massively, it's decisively different from other states' approach to what builders have to do to build a house for somebody to buy. If you're building a house in California, you could really argue you are already a green builder, like it or not. And that's just a fact.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, even KB Homes is looking to move out of California.
I saw that.
As a company.
Well, I think that's got less. That may have less to do with, the availability of drinking than it does the geopolitical climate.
No, you're right.
There are a lot of great companies who are moving around. But the good news about California, 40 million of us who live here, there's a lot of great businesses here still. And we all have choices. KB's been an LA-based business for a very long time, and they're moving to Tempe, Arizona, but they're keeping all 6 of their California home building divisions intact, which is great news. And I remember years ago talking to the CEO at KB, about their decision early, mind you, to turn their company into a water-friendly, green, sustainable home building business. This is a very huge business. And I remember thinking to myself, it might be easier to turn around an oil tanker in a bathtub than for this company to do that. But boy, was I ever wrong, because I've done exactly that. They continue to raise the bar. They are among, a number of big, high-profile, successful home building businesses that have really embraced sustainability as part of their, their credo, part of their mantra.
Right.
And they've leaned into it in a very good way. And everything any home you buy from that company is water friendly, it's energy friendly, it's carefully thought out, they're well built. It's remarkable. And they undertook to do that themselves. And I think a lot of people were sniggering, going, yeah, sure, whatever, bring it. But but they certainly did it, and they're to be commended for it. They're a great company. They've been around a long time, and I don't think it really matters where their offices are, where they're based.
No.
They'll continue.
No, you're
continue
right.
to build beautiful houses for American families, and that's what's important.
Absolutely.
So what do you think, for somebody who's not building a brand new home, but for working on their own home, what do you think is the most important thing they could be doing in terms of creating a more sustainable work product at the end of it? So let's say they're renovating a kitchen or, doing a remodel. What are kind of some of the more applicable things that they should be focusing on?
Well, there's a few things that are just very simple that every remodeler is going to bring and introduce to anybody who's doing it, and anybody doing DIY. I mean, it's very easy to come up with a few things. One of the things that I love to do is, there's a business that we've been working with for almost all the years we've been in business. A gentleman called Larry Acker, with a company called ACT Metland, ACT Metland, and they build a recirculating water pump, and these are not expensive, and you can retrofit these to any home. And what this does is, it's a simple premise. You go into the bathroom in the morning and you want to brush your teeth, and all of us, the first thing we do in our older houses, I live in a house that was built in 1969. I've been trying to bring as much sustainability to it as I can. One of the things I did first, when I bought this about 25 years ago, was introduce this feature. So you push a little button in the bathroom, and when the button goes green, then the hot water is already at the faucet. So you don't have to turn your shower on and then turn around and go brush your teeth and waste gallons and gallons of water going down the sink, because the water is being pushed through the pipe by the recirc pump from the tank to the outlet. And this is not an expensive technology. Any plumber can install it for any homeowner. That's a massive water savings, in any given month, never mind in a year. Imagine if everybody did that. Listen, I should mention, I'm not on Larry's board. I'm not a shareholder. But you asked for simple things, and that's one we reliably use, and we know that there's going to be an advantage gained when we go to get certified. The folks who certify our properties love to see these types of simple things deployed in the building. Other things are just when you're upgrading your kitchen, and you're upgrading your bathroom or your ensuite. Think about the faucets. You have choices, and think about toilets. You can have low flush, or you can't even get the old Thunder Mug toilets anymore. You got to go to states that aren't as water conscious, like Nevada or somewhere, to get an old style bathroom toilet. The modern ones are more effective than they used to be when they first came out, but they use considerably less water. And the faucets, Delta and Moen have both praised our projects, and Delta products were in our ABC Green Home 4.0 project, and we used all their shower. The design team selected different things within the line, but we stayed on the WaterSense approved line from Delta, and that house is now an Airbnb, and nobody's ever complained about the shower pressure or the water pressure or any of that. So you can very easily take advantage of things just on the water side alone, just by making smart choices when you go to Home Depot, or if you're out doing a DIY project, or Lowe's or Canal Lumber or anywhere you're going to buy that type of equipment, or have your remodeler or your design team people advocate for a WaterSense approved setup, and you're going to be better off doing it.
You're right.
That's just on the corner.
No, you're right. One thing. Well, I was looking for a larger house, and went in and they said it was really nice and everything, and they said they have solar. Hey, pretty good. So what's the electric bill utility look like? And they said they had to get back to me. And they came back and they gave me the price of the bill that goes to the electric company. I said, so what do you pay the solar company who put it in? Well, come to find out, there's 15 years left on the agreement, and if you buy the house, you have to assume that you're taking over. That's part of the thing. You got to take over the contract. At the end of 15 years more to go, they had to pay $125,000.
Yeah,
and you still had to pay by the month. So yes, you got an electric bill from the public utilities, but then you still got to pay off this thing. Now, that wasn't so, well, it was kind of bad to me. Second part of that is the company filed Chapter 11.
Right.
And so they don't provide any service for the product at all. And then to top that off, if anything goes wrong, you can't buy parts from them or anything.
No.
So they sold their contracts off to some finance company who's taking over the contracts. Just pay me money every month. And so if I want to buy that house, I have to get stuck with that bill for 15 years and at the end pay $125,000. That was ridiculous. But brings a point that I was going to get to here. When you go buy or upgrade, because people upgrade their homes and do retrofits and things, you got to be careful when you go out and you put some of these things in from companies that you never heard of, and check them out. Even in the business I was in with irrigation controllers, there's lots of companies that say they make smart controllers, and some are really good and some are not. And some of them, the little companies, don't stay in business too long. So you can buy. You spend $100 or $200 to buy a smart controller from a little tiny company, and you find out in 2 years they went out of business, and you're stuck. You can't do anything. So my advice to people who are going to upgrade and go for the better green and sustainable products, check the manufacturer out of the product that you're going to want, and just to make sure it's going to be that they're going to be around. I've never bashed on my competitors in the industry because they're big companies, been in business a long time. And if you buy from the top companies like Delta and Moen and stuff like that, that's good. Same thing with irrigation equipment. You buy from Toro, you buy from Hunter, you buy from Rainbird. Those are names that have been around for a long time, and you're assured that they're not going out of business. They got money, and you'll be better off buying something from a prestigious company that's going to be around and help you. So that's my tip for people listening in. It's good to go green, but you got to have the companies behind it. So, anyway, we're up against the news hour. Nick, I appreciate you coming on the show. We want to have you back after your house is constructed. And this is a different house. It's not a cookie cutter kind of thing. It's more of a custom home. Is that correct?
Yeah, folks are welcome to follow the project. Two websites real quick. Builder.media, not .com. Builder.media is our business, and all of our platforms are available there. You can cruise through them. And the ABC Green Home, the American Buildable Certified Green Home, is abcgreenhome.com. And folks are welcome to sign up and get regular updates. And there's a lot of people from the public following it, and we're sharing it across the industry. And we're very pleased to have a chance to share it with everybody who's interested in its cost cutting to energy savings and money savings measures to live in a better house.
Yeah, I agree.
To be on the air again, and thanks to have you back, and I'd love to give you regular updates as needed.
Yes, do that. All right, thanks. We got to go, and for all our listeners, Tara, you want to say it?
If you like green, you gotta have blue.
All right, got her convinced. No, she already knew that. She's a smart lady. All right, everybody, have a good week. We'll be back next week with some great guests, and you have a safe and wonderful weekend. Good night, everybody.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
NBA playoffs. Pistons with a big third quarter dominate the Magic 98-83 to even their first round series at a game apiece. Head coach J.B. Bickerstaff says they showed their true identity.
It's Pistons basketball, and that's what it looks like. We had one off night just to happen to come at a bad time. But I know what our guys are, and we trusted that they were going to come back tonight, be the best version of themselves at some point.
In the West, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 37 points to help the Thunder beat the Suns 120-107, take a 2-0 lead in their first round series. Thunder guard Jalen Williams left in the third quarter with a hamstring injury. Raiders on the clock as round one of the NFL draft kicks off tonight in Pittsburgh. Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel will not be with the team on day 3 of the draft to seek counseling and spend time with his family following recent off-field controversy. And the Mets finally got off the schneid, beat the Twins to snap their 12-game slide. That's sports. I'm Ronza Moss.
KCAA Loma Linda.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
Located in the heart of San Bernardino, California, the Teamsters Local 1932 Training Center is designed to train workers for high-demand, good-paying jobs in various industries throughout the Inland Empire. If you want a pathway to a high-paying job and the respect that comes with a union contract, visit 1932trainingcenter.org to enroll today. That's 1932trainingcenter.org.
If you're looking for a full or part-time sales position and you have radio, TV, or print media experience, KCAA has a great opportunity waiting for you that pays the highest commissions in the market. If you're interested in a sales position with us, email ceo@kcaaradio.com.
KCAA.
When you're in Colton or Fontana, don't miss the great local food stylings of Alexis Cafe. Open every day from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Discover 30 years of bringing our community the vibrant flavors of Mexico. In Colton, they're at 115 North Mount Vernon Avenue, just down the street from San Bernardino Valley College. When you go, tell them you heard on this radio station and say muchos gracias. You can find them online at alexiscafemexicangrill.com. That's alexiscafemexicangrill.com.
KCAA. It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Oh, RFK. Junior. I got to tell you, I liked what Raphael Warnock said, the senator from Georgia, who said, personally, sir, even as you seem distracted while I talk to you about deadly diseases, I think you're dangerous to the American public and you ought to be fired. And if you're not fired, you ought to have the decency to resign. You're way in over your head. And it's true. I only watched a little bit of his hearing because I could only take so much. In talking with Elizabeth Warren, the comment came up, and look, RFK's not the brightest, evidently not the brightest. But this comment where he says that, and again, I wasn't a great math major. He said $600 to $10 is a 600% reduction. And I got to be honest, my mind went, hold on, that doesn't sound right. It sounds like more like a 98%. I actually went and did the math, 98.3% reduction. A 600% reduction. Wouldn't that be, the pharmacy paying me like $3,000 to take their drug? Yeah, that's what that means. But not in Trump world. Because we just pull stuff out of, whichever orifice we can pull it out of. And this is kind of where we are. In this weird world where the very best people are out there doing and saying the dumbest stuff. I look at Kash Patel. Evidently, Kash Patel had a reporter investigated by the FBI because they wrote an article about his girlfriend? His girlfriend's got, government security and transportation. Yeah, I think well worth an article, but no, we're going to intimidate. And understand, finally, I think Democrats are finding some courage. If you look what happened on Tuesday in Virginia, came around and saying, look, we're going to fight back. We're going to fight fire with fire. We're going to, when they go low, do what Rick said from the beginning, mash their heads into the ground. Because ultimately, anybody who's ever played football or ever done, when they come for your knees, knee in the back. And this is what happened on Tuesday in Virginia. Democrats actually put up a fight. And look, I'm not a big gerrymandering fan. And neither are Democrats. Neither is Hakeem Jeffries or Gavin Newsom or Abigail Spanberger for that matter. But once Trump started down this fight, Democrats, to their credit, and look, I'm always beating up on Democrats for being weak. In this moment, they did the right thing. And I also like the fact that they're going to sunset it so that maybe we can go back to we the people voting for our elected officials. But understand, this is one of those moments where he started it actually means he started it. Now, I don't think Republicans thought that Democrats would put up a fight. I don't think they did. I didn't think they thought they were going to get smacked in the mouth. They thought that this would be really quick. It'd be over in no time, and there'd be a little squealing, but ultimately they'd get their way. But again, good on the Democrats for standing up, stealing the spine a little, because when Republicans have in the past have done their dirty tricks, they've gotten away with it. And it's about time Democrats fight fire with fire, and thank goodness the Michelle Obama, when they go, how did it go again? When they go low, we go high. No. When they go low, we kick dirt in their face, and we that. Now understand, this isn't over. Florida could still do horrible things. The courts could undo things, but it shows some spine. And even if Democrats ultimately lose this gerrymandering fight, the fact that they balled up their digits and they got in there and they did something, I think is going to go a long way with the working class of this country who just wants a champion to fight for them. And as bad as Trump is, as horrible as Trump is, how bad this administration is, how horrible this administration is, people still, I don't know if it's the ink from the red hats or what, still believe that there's somebody there who thinks about them, cares about them, when the reality is we know that not. So for me, this moment, Democrats showing a little spunk, showing a little fire, a little fight, is a good thing. Because maybe we can then take that into some policy fights, raising the minimum wage, strengthening labor laws, I don't know, health care. I like what Tim Walz said. The next president better figure it out. Better figure national health care out. Universal care for everybody. Better figure that out and quick. So for me, it's more than just a victory at the polls. It's a victory of messaging. It's a victory of maybe, when you poke a bully in the chest, maybe they stop. Now we know the Republican bully is not going to stop. They've got a huge cash advantage. They're going to spend, because our billionaire class understands if they lose power to a Democratic Party that's actually got some stones, we might actually tax them. Yeah, might actually tax them. Want to hear your thoughts? Rick at thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1956. That was the day of the founding of the Canadian Labour Congress. Today, the Canadian Labour Congress is the largest labor organization in Canada, representing some 3.3 million workers. During the early 1950s, labor leaders in Canada were becoming increasingly uneasy about the rising influence of big business in the country. They knew that labor must stand united as a force representing the interests of workers for safe job sites and fair wages. workers. In 1953, the country's two major labor organizations decided to form a unity committee. The Trades and Labor Congress of Canada had been focused on craft unionism, much like the AFL in the United States. The Canadian Congress of Labor emphasized industrial organizing, similar to that of the CIO in the U.S. The goal of the Unity Committee was to promote cooperation between these two Canadian labor groups and explore a possible merger. In 1955, labor leaders from the United States also recognized the importance of union solidarity to stand as a counterweight to the rise of big business in the U.S. The AFL and CIO merged. The next year, the Canadian merger was also complete. In Canada, the early Canadian Labour Congress had strong representation among manufacturing, transportation, and mining workers. Later, they organized more public sector workers, such as postal workers, nurses, police, and firefighters. By the late 1990s, the Canadian Labour Congress represented 2.5 million workers from 51 different unions. Each year on April 28th, the Canadian Labour Congress holds a National Day of Mourning. The day is set aside to remember all of the Canadian workers killed on the job. In the 1950s, labor solidarity was on the march on both sides of the Canadian border.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So a budget battle heating up in Washington, D.C. as Senate Republicans are pushing for another $70 billion to supercharge ICE and Border Patrol through the end of Trump's term, despite the fact that the Department of Homeland Security shut down and there are enormous cries for reforms. We've seen all of the abuses. And Bobby Kogan, Senior Director of Budget Policy over at the Center for American Progress, has put out a piece calling this a missed opportunity. A missed opportunity. Bobby, thanks for taking time for us.
Rick, thanks so much for having me on.
So a missed opportunity. Isn't virtually everything this administration does a missed opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, they have different priorities than I think a lot of us. I think the big thing to think about here is they have decided amongst themselves that they're going to spend $70 billion more than they otherwise wouldn't have spent. And if you're asking me, hey, you got $70 billion, figure out what to do with it, I would not sink that into ICE and CBP. Instead, I'd sink that into helping real Americans.
And we hear an awful lot about the affordability crisis. And one of the things that I found interesting is the amount of money that's being spent, because it's not just going to be $70 billion. The big beautiful bill gave a whole bunch, and I understand that this $70 billion can be doubled. Walk me through what explain that.
Yeah, so a couple things. We should step back. So the reason this is all can happen is they're using a process known as budget reconciliation. The thing that matters about that is that it's filibuster proof, which means that they can do it even if all Democrats vote no. That's how they did the big beautiful bill. It's the same process over here. And we're in the first step of it right now, which is that you set up, you do a budget resolution. The budget resolution gives broad contours. What it does is it instructs committees, congressional committees, to either increase or decrease the deficit. And so that was how we got the big, beautiful bill. It began, they instructed various committees to cut a bunch. And we knew, when he told the Ag Committee to go cut hundreds of billions of dollars, we knew that meant they were cutting, that meant that they were cutting SNAP. And when they told the Finance Committee to go cut a bunch of, hundreds of billions of dollars, we knew that meant they were going after Medicaid. Well, this time around, actually last time as well, they instructed the Judiciary Committee and also the HISGAC Committee, Homeland Security, Governmental Affairs Committee, to increase the deficit. And what's in there that they care about, it's money for ICE, it's money for Border Patrol. So last time around, they gave ICE and Border Patrol $140 billion, which, by the way, of that $140 billion, 75% of it still remains unused. Over $100 billion of that still remains unused. So despite the fact that they gave $140 billion, despite the fact that 75% of that is still unused, they want to go back, they want to give more money. And so what they do, they instructed HISGAC to increase deficits by $70 billion. They instructed Judiciary to increase by 70 billion. That's how you could get, when you say, oh, is it 70? Is it 140? That's how you could get up to 140. It's a technical thing about why I think they're really shooting for 70 instead of 140. The two committees have weird jurisdictional, it's not technically overlapping, but like if you want to do this part of ICE, it's inside of judiciary. If you want to do that part of ICE, it's inside of his GAC. And so what they've done is they've given both committees room so they have maximum flexibility. They could walk out of there with 140 billion, but that's not their plan. They actually did the same thing last time where they gave $175 billion of room to both, but they walked out of there with, $140 billion of spending instead. So it's the same sort of thing. They could do more if they feel the need to, but we're really probably looking at $70-80 billion worth of more money for ICE and CBP with no reforms, no reforms at all.
But they're showing some restraint in spending. I mean, there's some restraint here, right? I mean, you're saving a couple $1 billion on something that we clearly don't need because, as you pointed out a second ago, there's $100 billion still sitting around. How much, I guess, how much do they need? And then what are the opportunity costs of spending all this money on ICE and Border Patrol when we're gutting nearly $1 trillion from Medicaid and housing programs and things that help, I don't know, average everyday working class Americans?
Yeah. So in the Big Beautiful Bill, they gave ICE so much money that even if it got no more dollars ever, and it was like shut down, right? Didn't get a single cent more in the annual process. They gave ICE so much money that it could run at double capacity through the end of the Trump administration, right? It was just a boatload of money for ICE. Border Patrol was a little bit different. They gave some money to Border Patrol, but they didn't supercharge it the same way that they supercharged ICE. They're coming back now and they see that we've been in shutdown, right? The whole reason this is happening, the whole thing that pushed them towards it is that Democrats actually stood strong, right? It was a really nice surprise. Democrats stood really strong and said, we're not going to give another cent to ICE or CBP unless we get major, massive reforms. And both sides, Republicans said absolutely not. We want no reforms, and Democrats held strong. So we have the longest ever shutdown for DHS in history. We're still shut down. We've been shut down since, I want to say February 14th. Anyway, for, more than 2 months, I think at this point.
And oddly enough, the world hasn't ended.
And so the reason Republicans are going forward is that they said, okay, fine, we'll fund it without you. And what that means is they're funding it without any oversight, without any reforms, without anything. Ironically, with even less oversight than DHS typically has, because even though DHS doesn't have that much oversight under the authorizing law, when you do it through reconciliation, you tend to have even fewer strings attached and even less kind of like limitations inside the authorization language. So theoretically, we're walking out of here with really broad use money for whatever Trump wants inside of DHS. Pretty scary stuff, pretty bad stuff.
No, but the weird thing is every time we go through these budget reconciliation bills, it highlights the fact that we can't pass a budget. We can't do the actual budgeting process of 13 individual bills. We get them, we hammer them out, and they get passed. It's like we continually, whoever's got the power today gets to push through whatever they want, and there doesn't seem to be any cohesive movement to do like every American in this country, and that's budget reasonably.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. Obviously, Congress struggles a lot to be functional. I'd say our appropriations are our least dysfunctional part. That doesn't mean it's not dysfunctional, but we don't get the bills done on time. We never get the bills done on time. Lots of it is last minute, sometimes all together and everything, but we get them done usually. And usually we're going line by line through it, even if everything doesn't really work right. In the last, year and a half, it's been pretty tough. I think it's all downstream of the fact that the OMB director, who's normally directly and immediately involved in these negotiations, in this case, Russ Vogt, said that he thought that appropriation should be, quote, less bipartisan. So I think the fact that we can't agree is because we have someone who's trying not to agree. It's hard enough when people are actively trying, because we have different ideas of what we should do in the world, right? Like, you asked me, like, I put out a piece yesterday, the day before, I put out a piece that was all on, well, what could we do with 70 billion instead? And like, that's my dream. Like, if you said, Bobby, what do you, and so, the numbers I came up with, I said,
that was my next question, by the way.
Say again?
That was my next question, by the way.
So, yeah, apology. Yeah. So what I did was I crunched. They're imagining the 70 billion is going to last 3.5 years. And be used to kind of fund DHS for 3.5 years. So I said, well, if I was taking 70 billion to do stuff for 3.5 years, what could it do for 3.5 years? And so I calculated a bunch of different things it could do. One thing is it could give 2.2 million people Medicaid for 3.5 years. A different thing it could do is it could give 22.8 million kids free lunches at school, for 3.5 years. It could house 2.4 million people in Section 8 housing, help them afford rent and make sure they're housed for 3.5 years. It could give 1.4 million kids free childcare for 3.5 years, or it could put 2.2 million adults, give them 2 years of free tuition to help them get their associate's degree, right? Those are like ideas. If you said, Bobby, 70 billion, figure out what to do. Yeah. I think those are really great ideas. They speak to the staples of where people struggle. We struggle with food. We struggle with housing. We struggle with education. We struggle with childcare, right? Like we struggle with healthcare. These are basic things that humans in America and across the world struggle with. And instead, there's disagreement. Republicans say, no, we should sink it all into a secret police with no oversight. So there are legitimate, honest to God disagreements on what should be done. Earlier today, House Republicans started releasing some of their bills for this upcoming appropriations fight. And inside of it, they released the ag bill, and they released the state and foreign ops bill. And the ag bill, that's where we fund WIC. WIC is a program where we help very poor pregnant moms make sure that they have enough food so the baby is not malnourished. And it also goes to help literal newborns so the newborn is not malnourished. And then it helps you when you're an infant as well. So it's for very, very poor people to make sure they literally get the nutrients they need. It's super paternalistic, right? They protect, right there. You say you can only get this, not this. It's all the things Republicans allegedly want to do, and they propose to cut it. They want to get rid of the fruit and vegetable benefit. That's crazy, but that's in their bill. Similarly, global foreign aid stuff. I know they don't like the foreign aid, but of the foreign aid, I think there are some legitimate complaints about some areas of foreign aid where we know that some of the efficacy is a little tough. Sometimes it's going to governments not used entirely right and blah, 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 but we're still trying to help or exercise soft power. Inside of it, that's where we do our global health programs. That's where we do PEPFAR. That's where we keep people from dying. It's some of the most cost-effective stuff on the planet, where you could be like, hey, this costs 50 cents and prevents you from going blind for a year. This costs $1 and prevents you from, whatever, right? It's all this stuff that is hyper efficient. And they call for cutting it by like $500 million, right? That is like hundreds of thousands of people who are maybe going to die or have their lives ruined because of this. So it's just a complete difference of morality, basically. And that's why it's so hard to budget.
Absolutely. I mean, tax cuts for billionaires or more money for ICE. And look, the reality is ICE isn't polling really well. I'm sure you've noticed this, given the fact that they have a low approval rating, especially after incidents like in Minneapolis. Do you think this is going to get people's attention? Do you think this is going to another 70 billion or more? Do you think this helps our view on immigration enforcement, or do you think it hurts? How do you see this?
I hope people pay attention. I will say, as of yesterday, people weren't really aware this was going on. By the end of the Big Beautiful Bill, a lot of people were paying attention, but even there, I think it was less salient than during the Obamacare repeal war of 2017. I had friends, I had normies, right? People who barely pay attention to anything, who are barely engaged. Maybe they vote once every 4 or 8 years or something, talking to me about that. And that was kind of the height of engagement. Big Beautiful Bill did the largest Medicaid cuts in U.S. history. If you'd ask me like, oh, well, who do you think did the largest Medicaid cuts in history? You'd probably want to guess Ronald Reagan, and you'd have been right until Trump, who did cuts that were 4 times as big, 3 times greater, right? Like crazy. Largest cuts to SNAP also, right? Like largest cuts to Medicaid, largest cuts to SNAP. And it was only kind of part of the discourse. A lot of people were talking about the tax cuts, and you're like, well, it is tax cuts for the rich, but there's also this huge component that not enough people are talking about. It was hard enough to get people to pay attention to that. I think given the fact that this one doesn't actually have any social safety net cuts inside of it, doesn't have tax cuts, doesn't have Medicaid cuts, doesn't have SNAP cuts, I hope people pay attention. But so far, I think people haven't been super plugged in. But it has a real effect, right? And actually, I think Minneapolis is a good example. When Minneapolis, there were about 10 times as many ICE agents and CBP agents on the ground as there were local law enforcement. Imagine what ICE, and that was when ICE was running at about 50% increased capacity. Imagine what ICE could be when it were running at triple capacity after all the funding from the Big Beautiful Bill phases in.
No, that's a scary prospect. So let me ask you a last line of questioning then, because the hope is come November, and a lot of my lefty friends, a lot of my Democratic Party friends are hoping that there is a blue wave. The Democrats take control of the House and potentially the Senate, since that seems to be possibly in play. When Democrats get this leverage, if they do, what kind of common sense reforms would you prioritize if you were advising them on this issue, on the DHS funding, but also the opportunity costs that are lost by wasting this money on something that I don't think is going to help working class people at all. So I'm curious your thoughts.
So number one, a big thing has to be rescinding this money. It's a fancy way of saying peeling it back. When we gave money to the IRS in the Inflation Reduction Act, and then Republicans retook the House, they made getting rid of that money the cost of doing business. And over the course of 3 years, they basically got rid of all of it. 3 years. So that's going to be number one. We have to make peeling back this money a huge part of it, because as I said, this money has even less kind of oversight than anything else. So we kind of have to pull it back, make it so they can't be an occupying force. In addition to that, we basically need to rewrite all the kind of controls around what ICE and CBP can do. Right now, they have an incentive problem, right? Part of the reason these feel pretty tepid and lukewarm, but part of the reason that people focus on things like body camera, masks off, like camera display or whatever, right? Or not camera, but badge display and everything. The reason people focus on this is part of the reason they get away. Part of the reason people do what they do is they think they can get away with it. And the more you make it so that actually you can't get away with it because you're no longer an anonymized person, it's very clear who you are, who you're doing it. It's not going to stop all the abuses, but it's the sort of thing that actually meaningfully reduces that. We see that in kind of police across the United States. It's not like it ends stuff, but it legitimately earnestly makes it better. So there are a whole bunch of stuff that like Dems propose that, as I say, they're not the strongest, but the whole point was to propose stuff that we thought we could argue pretty with a straight face to someone who was maybe skeptical, but said, I was talking to someone literally the other day at the park, and he said to me, well, why are we shut down? I said, well, it's because Dems want the asks and Republicans don't. And he said, well, what are the asks? And I said, well, one of them is body cams. And this guy is a hardcore Trumper. He straight up said to me, I think Trump is going to do better his second term than the first term because he now understands the weight and the gravity of the presidency. He said this in 2024 after Trump tried to steal the election. So, Trumper. I said this to him, and his first response was, wait, Republicans are against body cams? Like, they work really well on police. So the point was to have that reaction from folks. So that's why they asked for stuff like that. And then I would say we have to, the way, it's not just because it's good politically, it's the right thing to do. The whole point of government is to help people, help people get it, help people maybe get ahead a little bit, at least make it by. And so you have to prioritize stuff that actually helps working Americans.
No, that's what Democrats had better get into the midterms talking about. I know they're trying, but that's got to be the wheelhouse. How you're going to make my life and other working class people's lives better. It's that simple. But I agree with you. Missed opportunity here so far. We'll see where it takes us. But Bobby Kogan, I appreciate you taking time for us.
Rick, thanks so much for having me on.
Good stuff as always. Make sure you check out their work over at AmericanProgress.org. Bobby Kogan, Senior Director of Budget Policy there at the Center for American Progress. Want to hear your thoughts? Something on your radar? Something you're paying attention to? Should we be giving them more money when they're sitting on an unholy war chest? Want to hear your thoughts? Rick at thericksmithshow.com. Right back.
This segment sponsored by Assured Shutters Inc. of Mentone. Tax refunds are right around the corner, and if you're expecting some money back, you might think about using some of those funds for a dramatic, impressive home improvement that adds a measurable investment to your home. Assured customers use words like beautiful, affordable, and practical. They're locally made, handcrafted, and custom designed. Assured Shutters Inc. can make your living space impressive and comfortable, adding the right amount of style, light, and privacy to your home. Money well spent. At Assured Shutters, there's no middleman. They offer a free, no-pressure in-home estimate. Save hundreds of dollars by going directly to AssuredShuttersInc.com or just Google Assured Shutters Inc. Serving Southern California for over 20 years. Their product is guaranteed for a decade. You can call 909-794-6008. That's 909-794-6008. Or catch them on their Facebook page, Assured Shutters Inc. of Mentone.
KCAA. Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So I got to tell you, I've been waiting for this moment all day long. I don't know about you, but my cell phone does not stop ringing morning to night with robocalls. These aren't even actual people. It's a recording of, "Hi, are you there?" And you're dumb enough to go, "Yeah, I did it again." And